and then simply the filing. So we have playbooks 0, and if you run that, it should then create a VPC for each one of you running that command. So it's Ansible-playbook, yeah, and we'll give it a try and see what happens. And I hope it's not running into an error, because that would be a bad start. But it's taking too long for a very bad error. So at the moment it's just AWS is working hard in the background, it's creating VPCs for us. One thing, if you're starting with AWS, by default in each region you can create 5 VPCs. Just 5. I have increased the limit, so we're probably more. What does it say? Sorry? The same? It's working?
Application failure. Mike is hiding.
Okay, that's interesting. That is working for some and not for others. Oh yeah, that's still working. That's
before you started.
Really? Okay. What does it? Oh, you get an authentication.
No more posts. Oh, no, that's not nice.
That is interesting.
My name should not contain any digits.
Um,
lowercase or something?
Maybe, I haven't tried it. Yes, tried it like no dashes, no. It's in group voice. I'm not sure this is the problem, but we can give it a try. I'm not sure if that is allowed. But for you it worked?
Yeah.
Perfect. No, I'm trusting you. There's one very easy way to actually see it. You don't have access to the AWS console because you shouldn't need to click around anyway. This is just like, let's see. Wait, give me a second. Let's see for whom it has worked. So we have 4 VPCs. If it worked, you should be up there on the list. You have. It's really interesting that 2 of you have the same exception and it worked for others. Let's see.
My name server is not.
So
we have the same AWS Krenn access.
right. So that's what I wanted to check. So you have the same.
Yeah. VPN again.
Yeah, it would be very strange because you copied the same image, and if you do an echo, oops, the dollar missing.
I just set grep AWS uppercase and show both of them.
So echo that dollar AWS access key is giving you.
It's the same.
It's the same, okay. Because this is normally the first problem. If you haven't set up the credentials correctly, you will get the authentication error, but you.
I just a bit promotion I did not.
Yeah, no.
I have a different problem. So there's DNS.
Okay, so for 3 it worked, and for 3 others also it did, which is strange.
Just enable the rules. Just try to drop this .ansible on the.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that, but if it failed the first time, I haven't seen that. Yeah, you can.
get the
Do you have like a limit? Number of
No, I have the number of VPCs you can have is 5, and you should get a different error message. But
around 4.
yeah, I mean, what you can do is change the file group was again group exactly all exactly, and then change EU Central to EU West, because then you get your own region.
Like this?
Yeah, and then you will spin up the whole thing in Ireland. And we'll see if that makes a difference or not. But why?
Credentials work for one region and not for the other. That's
And I
No,
cannot really.
it's
Oh, it's the same. Okay. Then that didn't. Okay. For you, it's working.
Yeah.
Networking problem. Okay. But you have the exactly same machine. This is super weird. For some reason, that always makes debugging much more fun. No, so it's not the region. You have the same key, you have the same version of everything. No,
I
that
really
shouldn't.
don't see why.
That shouldn't make a difference. Wait. Okay, so 5. For you it's not working. For you it's working? No? You get the authentication error as well? No, you get different one. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine. Ansible dash playbook. Dash no dash no. Yeah, playbook. Playbooks 0. Tab autocomplete. Perfect. Good to go. We see, but it's taking longer for you, so it's probably working. Yeah, for you it's working. So we should have 6 now. Yeah, we have 6.
The only thing we change is the names of pages.
Yeah, but if you just use underscore letters in the name, I don't really see.
Try to use just letters. I don't know if anyone but succeed didn't have letters.
Yeah, no numbers or anything, yeah.
Yeah.
But you've changed to only letters as well, right?
Yep.
This looks like a super interesting problem. And it's not the VPC limit, because the VPC limit is normally 5 per region. I had that increased to 40.
You can change the region.
Yeah, right. You tried a different region. So you're stuck and you're stuck, right?
What's the error again?
Sorry?
What is the error?
An 401. It's an authentication error. It doesn't help. Yeah. What is your username? The in-group was or.
Just try to deploy the AWS CLI on one of those machines and do an AWS to describe instances. See if it's an actual authentication error or not. If it's something else from the PC or anything.
Yeah, but you're all using the exact same key.
Yeah, that's one assumption that they unset the requirements for some reason.
Yeah, so if in your environment you do, it's the wrong window.
Yeah, just check the environment and check that the key is correct.
So you should have the same output for these 2 commands. So for secret key and access key, but I doubt anybody has changed that. It must be the same, because you didn't even set them yourself. And you're using 3 letters for the username?
Yeah.
Okay, because somebody, it's not too short. Because it was my next idea, like, but yeah, MMC is working, so 3 letters must be fine.
Actually, you can have a VPC without a name.
Sorry?
You can have a VPC without a name.
Yeah, right. That's just to make it look nicer. I'm running out of ideas. Because there's really no change, no difference for you than for any.
Do you use something like Little Snitch or some other thing that may...
No, it's a plain.
No, I'm not asking you, but
so-
you guys forgetting the hours.
Okay.
Maybe something that's dampening traffic on the host.
Oh yeah, on
You
the.
have an IDS or Little Snitch on Mac or something like that.
Right. If you limit.
I have one of those nodes
But even if you block traffic, you shouldn't get a 401. You shouldn't get anything. Probably.
Maybe if you're tampering with traffic, I don't know. Not blocking.
Yeah, but tampering with
Making some
the
weird changes.
REST request sounds like.
This is why I was saying to run the AWS CLI because it's a bit more verbose. It's not the 401 might have additional context. AWS doesn't just throw random errors.
Yeah. Andrew, do you have an idea why some people might get a 401 on a request, but everybody is using exactly the same image?
401, but it's they storing HTTP application or
For creating VPCs, it's just like one REST call.
401 means
Not authorized.
not authorized. Maybe the API key is wrong.
Yeah, but it's the same image and
Yeah, but the same image. But do they use the same API key to connect?
yeah, that was baked in already.
Okay.
So, and it's for 6 people it's working, and for 2 it's not. I mean, I can give you a different key, but I'm not sure it's working.
No.
This.
Yeah, do you have any kind of context to the exception? Because probably it says something in the message.
Yeah, unauthorized.
Yeah, but
Not on my machine.
It isn't the firewall and the allow all outgoing connections.
The only difference is that one is a McAfee firewall corporate.
Ah, okay. I'm blaming McAfee now.
It's the only thing that's different.
Okay.
Just opened all the old one connections.
It's
do you have any machine you can connect to and try it from there?
no, that's not available at all. I keep that close again. We'll spin up. Everybody spins up their own, and we can work with that. So that should work. Yeah, but we can improve or something. But see, you need to have network access, otherwise you need to have more than one. You're actually getting a response. So it's not. It's like if it was changed to something or the key was wrong.
Ah, okay. So everybody uses the same credential.
Well, you can continue.
Yeah, I'll try to think about something, but I'm.
No, just continue with the.
Yeah, maybe I can catch you later. Yeah, so these are the credentials everybody has been using. Yeah, so in theory, this should be working. This will be interesting to debug afterwards. Okay.
Actually, one command, sorry guys. People were complaining about Frankfurt.
Yeah.
Frankfurt was probably the most unstable region at the moment.
I've experienced that myself. It's just the one but we've tried to change it to EU West and it didn't help.
No.
So, yeah, we're pretty much out of ideas. We have just, like in the offline way you've seen, I mean now don't change it, but if you, at the very beginning, change the region, you will just go to whatever you define there. It's just like a single place where you can define your region, which is kind of the setup. And we've changed all the my name, which we have seen in the AWS console, and everybody has run that, and most of us have been successful. So So I hope we're not losing anybody else. The second step is setting up a security group. So in the security groups, again, I'm using my dummy host. Like, since I don't communicate with an actual instance yet, I'm communicating with AWS. And then I'm simply saying, okay, run the local action against the module EC2 group, against whatever AWS region we have defined. So everything in curly braces, double curly braces is just the placeholder for whatever we have defined in group wars. And then again, it's using your name. So if you run that, it will create a security group with your name, which is called whatever your name was, security group first. And then it will add some rules. For example, we have incoming rules. We will allow incoming traffic to port 22 and 80. And outgoing traffic will allow 80, 443, NTP, GB, to install packages and like the usual stuff you would need. This is what this rule will set up for you. So you can simply run that to create the security groups. So security groups are kind of the firewall, but they're not actually running on your instance, but like outside of it. Amazon manages that for you. So any traffic incoming or outgoing, we can limit those with the security groups. And again, to run that, you can simply again say Ansible playbook. And inside the playbooks, you have one security groups, and if you run that, it should create the security groups. So for those who have a working VPC, you can then create the security groups for you.
Can you remind me again where the VPC ID is stored?
Yeah, right. That's actually a very good point. I just need to get rid of that. So the VPC stuff, I'm using a little trick here. So we have group wars for groups, and then we have called host wars, which is for specific hosts, the variables for them. And in host wars, I have defined a file which I called the localhost IP. So whenever you communicate with the dummy AWS group, which is on localhost, these variables will be used. And in that file, I simply stuck my VPC ID and my subnet IDs. So these are then used to actually communicate with your VPC. And this is then the difference how your scripts know which VPC to actually target. And this file you would normally check into version control. Once you've generated that file, whenever you want to communicate with your VPC, you will need these informations.
Okay, so if we run, I just run the recipe and go to local.css to the VPC that I just set.
Right.
Okay. So
This is kind of a trick to use the correct auto-loading of Ansible, because Ansible will first like look up in group wars, is it in a group? Is there a file name with the group that I can use, or is there the host name? And since we're using the host name localhost, I will simply target that string. So if we actually run that playbook, it should create your security group. Again, it will take some moments, and in the end it should tell you like, I've changed one security group, actually that has created that one for you. So you can always see like 0 failed, which is good, 0 were unreachable, so the AWS API was reachable, and if you have hosts, like all of the hosts would be reachable. 1 was okay or not changed, and 1 was changed. So this is what we're actually running here. And as soon as you've run that, I can again show you the results. Now we're switching to the EC2 tab. So here your VPCs are. And if my Wi-Fi is working, let's see. Still resolving the host. Come on, come on. Be glad that they didn't need to install any dependencies from the internet. So, in the instances, okay, somebody was quicker than the rest. Somebody already did all the work, but it looks like it's working. So for the others, in the security groups, if you have run your stuff, you can see, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, all 6 were able to create their security groups, which is nice, it worked. And then you can actually see the inbound rules we have defined, incoming port 80 and 22, and outgoing we've also defined some rules. So this is exactly what we have in the file, and this is just what has been applied. Okay. So we've run that. And the next step is we need to generate a key pair. So AWS will create or store a key pair for you, and you can then use that key pair to actually SSH into the box. We need to communicate that as well, which is again pretty simple. Should we take a break, or is everybody still fine? Okay, and we'll continue. So if I take a look at that, that's super simple now in my playbooks. The playbook 2 is simply I say generate the key with whatever your name was and just add SSH to it to make it clear that it was an SSH key for the right AWS region. And the key material is then the one key that is already on your machine. So based on the public key you have, the key will be stored on that instance. So what you have is in your SSH folder, this is what the initial Ansible script when setting up the virtual machine. The ID RSA and ID RSA pub have been created, and now we're simply uploading the pub key. So only the public key we will upload, and then with our private key we can later on SSH into the box. So this is what all of this is doing. And if I, Ansible playbook. If I run Ansible playbook and I run this generate key, I guess everybody can follow along by now. It will upload that key, and if I now go to the key pairs in the console, I can see, okay, everybody was successful, everybody has uploaded the key, and they're all having the same fingerprint, which is kind of expected because I generated the key pair once I set up the VM. So everybody got the same key pair. Doesn't matter, it's just like the key pair name. This is what will be used to actually set up the right key for your instances. So if you have the who's SSH key, this will then be used to SSH into your box. That key will need to be used. Since we're all having the same key, we could log into each other's boxes, but this is like where the distinction is made. So we have set up the keys, and it was successful. We have run the playbook, and the final one is we want to create the instance, and this time I'm actually bringing in roles now. So to make this a little shorter, so in my playbooks I have the instance create, and this one is pretty short. So I'm just defining a few variables here, which can then be used inside my role. So all I'm saying is here, like, if you run this, use the roles called EC2-instance and use these variables as well. So the first thing is I want to have an instance of the size t2.small. T2 is just specific generation, which is bursty and pretty cheap. Use a small instance. For the security groups, use whatever your name was security group first. So the security group you have actually created that will be passed on. And then just give it an instance class, an instance name, and use the right VPC subnet. So we are putting that instance into the public A VPC subnet. There it will be created. And the roles are then, I was using the EC2 instance, and here we have two folders which are important. First, we have defaults, where you can define any default you want. Inside these folders, the main file you will always use is main.yaml. So here I'm simply defining the AMI ID I want to use, so all the instances we're using will be based on that ID. If you would want to use a different operating system or a different version, you could override that in the vast section of the playbook. But by default, all of the instances will fall back to that ID, and that's Ubuntu 14.04, the previous stable version, but still good probably. And the other thing where the actual action is happening is in the tasks, and there we have a main file again, and this is the stuff that the role will actually execute. So here you can see I'm using again a local action since I still don't have an instance, but I'm communicating with the AWS REST interface. And here I say, okay, Frankfurt region, whatever key name you have created, the instance type you have defined, and then some other attributes and stuff. And for example, I can define the volume. You will use a general purpose SSD disk with 10 gigabytes. It will be deleted once you terminate it. So all these configurations are simply wrapped into the Ansible script and will be set up for you. And we're also setting up a CPU alarm. If your CPU goes over 70% for more than 5 minutes, 5 times 60 seconds, an alarm will be set up. So you can configure all of these little pieces AWS provides for you just via the API. And normally you could just create alarms for, I don't know, the instance is not available or unhealthy or broken, CPU, high network, whatever you want to monitor, you could simply put it in here and would get alerted by whatever measure you want. Okay, so if I run that playbook, if I create my instance, it will then go to my playbook, and from the playbook it will jump to the role, and then it will apply all the stuff defined there to actually create the instance. So in the background, AWS is hard at work to create our new instance, give us the virtual machine with the 10 gigabyte SSD disk, and to spin that up for us. And once we have spun up that machine, we can actually SSH into the machine now. This is kind of then the regular Ansible approach, just SSH into the machine or whatever you want to do. At the moment we are still communicating with the interface. And the one thing to note here now is the DNS name. That is the name under which your instance is available afterwards. So you can copy that name, and that in your inventory file, this is actually, I've just called the instance first, put in that DNS entry, because in the next step, then you want to communicate with that instance you have just created. So here, I'm simply adding that is my IP address, and I want to communicate with that. So since we have already spun up the machine, I hope this worked for everybody. Let's check. So in the instances list, we hopefully have, yes, we have 6 instances, so everybody was successful, and everybody got their instance with an own instance ID, all the same type, all the same availability zone. You've seen the variables, what you need to change to create more instances or create in different regions, availability zones, whatever. And the third thing you probably want to do is, now that your instance is up, is you want to SSH into that. So you have copied the DNS entry, whatever it is for you, you have it in your output. And then you can simply say SSH Ubuntu. Ubuntu uses the Ubuntu username by default to SSH into that, at whatever the DNS entry of your instance was. And then the key file we want to use is the ID RSA, which is the same for everybody. And using that, we can actually SSH into the box. So if I close that down again and simply enter it. So I want to SSH into my box for the Ubuntu user at whatever my DNS name was. And my key file is the, oops, that was not what I wanted. Come on. It's gone, okay. Ubuntu at whatever inventory file. Okay, with that command, you should be able to SSH into the box. It will ask you, yes, you want to accept that. So this is working nicely. The main thing, if you have many boxes, you probably don't want to remember all the SSH configurations you have. So what you can instead do is, since we have defined it, you can simply use the SSH config file, and there you can just configure like for these instances SSH into that box, and if you have instances in your private VPC, for example, in that file you could then define SSH into that bastion host, so like a jump host, you SSH into a host in the public subnet first, and that will then bounce you over into the private subnet. You can define all of these things in the SSH config file, and you don't need to remember them all the time and type them in by hand. You can simply put all of that configuration in your SSH config file, and whenever you just say SSH, the DNS name only, dash capital F, and then you can provide the file. Also the file I have provided the Ubuntu user, for example. This is all that the file is doing. So to show you the SSH config, there's not that much in there. I'm just saying the identity file is that. I only want to use the specified identity file, and my user is Ubuntu. And if you have a jump host or anything, you would have more definitions. And you can use more fine-grained stuff. For example, if you don't use asterisk hosts, you could have a URL pattern for development and production systems, for example, and use different keys and different settings and whatever. So this is pretty flexible. So just to quickly show it, to SSH into SSH into that box, I can simply use that key file and I'm in again, which is pretty convenient. Okay, and if you have already changed the DNS entry in your inventory file, you can then actually provision the instance. So just run Ansible playbooks, what you would expect in playbooks, the script for. I'll run it and I'll show you afterwards what it's actually doing. So we can simply run that. It's just updating the machine, installs Nginx, and customizes the file Nginx displays. And after that, you can hit the URL we have copied and actually see that it's doing something. So and then it's prompting for if you really want to continue. This is, for example, in the past I've done that for production servers where it would ask like, if you're connecting to a production server, it would ask like, do you really want to continue? Are you sure you're going to production? And then you need to press enter. And if you actually wanted to go to development, you couldn't run that command by accident. It's just like an additional safeguard. And in this case, I'm pretty certain I want to continue. I'm just hitting enter and I'm continuing with that. So it will update my instance, it will install Nginx, configure the file, and then we're good to display it. Yeah, updating stuff can take some time. But while this is running, I can actually show you the configuration file. No, this is the wrong one. I'll wait for that. It shouldn't take that long. We are not relying on the local internet now, since this is already on AWS and it should get all the packages from AWS. And while this is running, we can open another tab and put in the DNS entry which we've copied, and it will then display whatever we've done to the host. But first it needs to finish. Upgrading the dependencies, it can only take half a minute more. Has this worked for everybody? No? Did you get an error message? Or is it still running? Unreachable. Did you, in the inventory, change the DNS entry?
safety. This is right.
Exactly, yeah, that's good. Planning the VI inventory. Yeah, exactly, inventory. Yeah, that's fine. And the last line, exactly. Change that because this was just a test instance I was using and I've since shut it down. So it is okay if you cannot reach that. Okay, just to quickly show you what this thing is doing. Again, it's calling a role. I put that into a role. And now I'm running a pre-task. So before actually calling the role, I'm simply pausing to prompt for the enter you're actually doing something on production or whatever. This is just to show off another feature, what you can do. So the real action is in the role. So to show you the role, since the role was called base, it's in the base folder. And again, I have tasks and templates. The templates, I can quickly show you templates. I have just a file called index.html and J2. J2 is Ginger. The templating format, which is available in Ansible. And I'm just having that file. And here I'm replacing the my name, what you have already used and seen in the AWS console. We're simply putting your name into the welcome message Nginx will display. And the action, or the task this is doing, is update the cache, do a full upgrade of the instance so it's up to date and secure. Install Ansible just in case you use it, install Nginx, and then replace the existing index file with the template we have. I'm simply pausing to prompt for the enter you're actually doing something on production or whatever. This is just to show off another feature, what you can do. So the real action is in the role. So to show you the role, since the role was called base, it's in the base folder. And again, I have tasks and templates. The templates, I can quickly show you the templates. I have just a file called index.html and J2. J2 is Ginger. The templating format, which is available in Ansible. And I'm just having that file, and here I'm replacing the my name, what you have already used and seen in the AWS console. We're simply putting your name into the welcome message Nginx will display. And the action, or the task this is doing, is update the cache, do a full upgrade of the instance so it's up to date and secure. Install Ansible just in case you use it, install Nginx, and then replace the existing index file with the template we have. And when this file is uploaded from my local folder, the my name variable is replaced. So since this has already finished and succeeded, what you should see if you're calling the right URL, it should actually tell you welcome and your username.
I have an error.
You have an error. That is not so good.
It's timeout.
Timeout, okay, yeah, try again. This is a bad network.
It's the same.
Yeah. Yeah. You can run that, that's idempotent, you can run as many times as you want, it won't change anything. And it should just work. Or at some point, hopefully the network is good enough that we can get through. Okay, so who could access their instance that it's working? Okay, 3. I'm losing more and more people. So in theory, it should work. But at least most of you have been able to spin up an instance from what I can see. So on the instances, 6 of you have running instances. And the final step should just be to wait until the upgrade is through and then have your name up there. So if you call the right URL, you should be good to go. Okay, we're nearly done. Nobody wants to be late for lunch, I know. The first thing is, if you have any passwords or other secrets, there's this thing called Ansible Vault, which will create a file for you. and put all your secrets in, encrypt them, and once you have encrypted them, you can actually push that to GitHub wherever you want. And only with the right password, you can decrypt the secrets. And so even if somebody breaks into your GitHub account or steals your repository without the right key, they cannot do anything with your secrets. This is important. AWS access credentials are often stolen. People will spin up many expensive instances, and you will need to pay a lot of money. So people have frequently paid, I don't know, $1,000 to $10,000 for mining Bitcoins because somebody stole their credentials. Don't do that, encrypt your stuff. Ansible Vault is working pretty nicely. And then one thing is, which is more of a convenient thing, I've written a simple shell script to check and link my playbooks. So I can always run that to actually make sure the stuff I'm pushing is good. And I've integrated that into Jenkins. So every time I push something into my Ansible repository, Jenkins will actually run my playbooks and see if I haven't screwed up. Like it will find syntax errors and it will find bad practices you're doing. So just to show you what this is doing, it's not magic. It's just check playbooks. First off, I make sure you have Ansible installed. If you don't have it, it will throw an error. Secondly, if you don't have Ansible linked, it will throw an error. And then I'm going through the playbooks folder and simply extracting all the YAML files. And then it will tell you, okay, currently I'm testing this playbook, and it will run the syntax check on the playbook and Ansible linked on the playbook. And Ansible link will just tell you about bad practices. So this is pretty convenient. So to run that, it's just like check playbooks. And at some point it fails because it tells you are doing something you shouldn't be doing. And if I'm not mistaken, that is because I'm checking not a playbook, but a role. And the syntax expects only playbooks and not roles. So what we need to do is, I've actually created the little exception. So if it's in roles, don't do the playbook check because you cannot check playbooks with the roles with the playbook check. Kind of makes sense. And if we fix that, oops. So if we uncomment these lines and we run it again, it should run through smoothly and should now tell you, okay, there are no syntax errors, no known bad practices you're using in your playbooks. Looks fine. Now you can actually run them and should be pretty certain that this is working. So this is just something I did to tell me, hey, you checked in something that's bad and to avoid it. And if you want to visualize something on AWS, cloudgraph.co is a very nice tool. You can simply drag and drop your infrastructure together and draw everything and keep an overview of what's actually going on. This is very nice. It's free to use, just to click together. Yeah, and this is what you will get. So you have all the components, you can put them together and it can actually tell you how much one of these components costs. So if you pull in an instance and you don't know how much does that instance size and type cost, it will tell you the cost of the instance. So you can get a pretty good overview just by pulling stuff together. It's great for architecture reviews or just like what you're planning to do, and you can see, okay, how do I connect the actual pieces and how much does it cost? Very nice. And it's free. So to conclude, we've covered kind of the AWS basics and Ansible basics. Of course, like not a lot of time. And we've run some stuff, and you hopefully have everything up and running on AWS now. Yeah, don't forget the feedback thing, I was told. And otherwise, any other questions?